At first glance, owning a football field sounds like one of the simplest businesses imaginable. Buy a piece of land, build a pitch, let people play, collect the rental fees. Every evening, dozens of players show up with their friends, pay for an hour or two, and head home. Weekends are packed with tournaments, youth leagues, and local competitions. If the field is always busy, the money should practically make itself. That's the picture most people have, but there's a problem. A football field isn't really in the business of selling football. It's in the business of selling time. And that changes everything. Unlike a restaurant that can serve hundreds of customers throughout the day, or an online business that can sell to people around the world 24 hours a day, a football field has a hard limit. Every hour that passes without someone using the pitch is an hour of income that can never be recovered. You can't store today's unused playing time and sell it tomorrow. Once 7 to 8 p.m. passes with no booking, that revenue disappears forever. That simple fact shapes every decision an owner makes. Because in this business, the field itself is only the beginning. The real challenge is keeping that field occupied as many hours as possible while making enough money to cover the surprisingly high costs of owning it. And those costs start long before the first ball is kicked. Finding land is the first obstacle. A football field needs more than just enough space for the pitch itself. Owners also need room for parking, walkways, spectator areas, changing rooms, storage, lighting equipment, drainage systems, and sometimes small commercial spaces. Location matters just as much as size. A cheaper piece of land far from residential neighborhoods may save money up front, but if players have to drive an extra 30 minutes every week, many simply won't come. Paying more for a convenient location often brings far more customers over the long run. Then comes construction. For many commercial football facilities, the biggest decision isn't the design of the building. It's the surface players will actually run on. Natural grass offers the traditional experience people associate with football. It looks beautiful when maintained properly and remains the standard for many professional matches. But from a business perspective, natural grass has a major weakness. It needs rest. Heavy use damages the surface. Rain turns sections into mud. Dry weather requires irrigation. Groundskeepers have to mow, fertilize, reseed, and constantly repair worn-out areas. Every day spent recovering the grass is another day the field earns less money. Artificial turf changed that equation. Although installing high-quality synthetic turf can cost significantly more at the beginning, it allows fields to host many more matches every day with far less downtime. Instead of worrying whether yesterday's tournament ruined the pitch, owners can schedule another game almost immediately. The higher upfront investment can create greater earning potential over the long term. But even artificial turf comes with a catch. It doesn't last forever. Thousands of players, sprinting, sliding, and changing direction, eventually wear down the fibers. Depending on usage and maintenance, many synthetic surfaces need replacing after several years. When that day arrives, the replacement bill can be substantial. And that's only one of many future expenses waiting for the owner. Because the moment construction ends, a different game begins. Not the game played by the athletes on the pitch. The game played by the owner trying to turn every available hour into sustainable profit. And that's where the economics become much more interesting. The biggest surprise about owning a football field is that the people playing football often aren't the most important part of the business. That sounds backwards. After all, without players, there is no business. But if you look closely at successful facilities, you'll notice something unusual. The owners spend less time thinking about football itself and far more time thinking about scheduling. Every empty hour is inventory that expires forever. Think of a football field like a hotel. A hotel doesn't simply sell rooms, it sells nights. If room 204 stays empty tonight, that night's revenue is gone forever. The hotel can't sell yesterday's vacancy tomorrow. A football field works the same way. If no one books the pitch from 3 Mamu to 4 Koma in the afternoon, that hour disappears permanently. The owner still pays for the land, electricity, insurance, maintenance, and staff whether anyone plays or not. That's why maximizing utilization, the percentage of available hours that are actually booked, is one of the most important numbers in the entire business. A field that's booked almost every evening but sits empty during weekdays may look successful. Cars fill the parking lot after work. Social media is full of tournament photos. The facility feels busy. The financial reality can be very different. Most of the week still has dozens of hours available. Morning slots, early afternoons, late evenings. If those hours remain empty, they quietly reduce the business's earning potential. So owners begin searching for different types of customers. Adult groups often prefer evenings after work. Schools usually play during the day. Youth academies practice in the afternoon. Corporate teams organize company tournaments. Local clubs rent weekly training sessions. Birthday parties reserve weekend mornings. Women's leagues may have different schedules than men's leagues. Each group fills a different part of the calendar. Instead of relying on one type of customer, successful operators build a schedule that keeps the field active from morning until night. That's where the business starts looking less like sports and more like airline economics. Airlines know a seat on a plane loses all value the moment the aircraft takes off. Football field owners face the same pressure. Once an hour passes unused, it's gone. This explains why many facilities offer discounted daytime rates. At first glance, charging less seems like losing money. In reality, earning something from an otherwise empty field is often better than earning nothing at all. A school that rents the pitch every Tuesday morning at a reduced price may actually increase annual profits because those hours might otherwise remain completely unused. The goal isn't simply charging the highest possible price. The goal is keeping the calendar full. But filling the schedule introduces another challenge. Different customers expect different experiences. Competitive clubs want high-quality lighting and consistent playing conditions. Parents expect clean changing rooms and safe facilities for children. Corporate clients may value parking, refreshments, and meeting spaces as much as the football itself. Professional academies look for reliable field conditions because repeated poor surfaces can affect player development. Each improvement attracts more customers. Each improvement also increases expenses. This balancing act defines the economics of the entire business. Spend too little, and customers leave. Spend too much, and profits disappear. Some owners fall into an expensive trap. After opening, they continue investing in impressive features, larger buildings, expensive decorations, oversized clubhouses, luxury seating, or unnecessary facilities that look impressive in photos but generate little additional income. The field becomes more beautiful, the business becomes less profitable. Successful owners usually think differently. Every investment has to answer one simple question. Will this help the field earn more money or attract enough new customers to justify its cost? Sometimes the answer is obvious. Installing better floodlights may allow games to continue later into the evening, creating additional bookable hours. That investment directly increases revenue potential. Other upgrades are much harder to justify. This difference between attractive spending and profitable spending separates many successful facilities from struggling ones. And then there's another revenue stream that many people completely overlook. Some football fields make more money from people who aren't playing at all. Because once players arrive, they often buy drinks, snacks, equipment, or even meals before heading home. Suddenly, the football match becomes only one part of a much larger business ecosystem. And for some owners, that's where the real profits begin. Once players walk through the gate, the football field has already accomplished its first goal. It's sold an hour of playing time. But the most successful facilities don't stop there. They've learned that a customer who spends 1 hour on the pitch often spends money before the match starts, during halftime, and after the final whistle. In many cases, the football game becomes the reason people visit, but not the only thing they pay for. A small cafe selling drinks, coffee, bottled water, and snacks may seem like a minor addition, yet its profit margins can be surprisingly attractive compared with renting the field itself. After an intense match, players are far more likely to buy refreshments than leave immediately. The same idea applies to equipment. Forgot your shin guards? Need a football? Want to rent training bibs or buy a pair of socks? Every small purchase adds revenue without requiring another hour on the pitch. Then there are coaching programs. Many commercial football centers don't simply rent fields. They operate youth academies with weekly training sessions and monthly tuition fees. Instead of earning money only when someone books the field, they create recurring income from families whose children train throughout the year. From a business perspective, recurring revenue is valuable because it's more predictable. Weekend bookings might be affected by bad weather or local events, but a well-run academy often provides a steadier stream of income. Tournaments create another opportunity. A single weekend competition can bring together dozens of teams, hundreds of players, and even more spectators. The field earns from entry fees, pitch rentals, food sales, and sometimes sponsorships from local businesses. A sporting goods store might sponsor prizes. A nearby restaurant might advertise during the event. Local companies gain exposure, while the facility creates additional income beyond normal bookings. This reveals another important lesson. A football field isn't just renting space. It's creating an ecosystem where many different businesses can operate together. But every new source of income comes with more responsibility. More visitors mean more cleaning. More events require more staff. Longer operating hours increase electricity bills, especially if powerful floodlights are used every evening. Maintenance also becomes more demanding. Even artificial turf needs regular brushing, cleaning, and inspections. Drainage systems must stay clear. Nets tear. Goalposts need repairs. Fences are damaged by weather and constant use. Restrooms require daily attention. Parking lots develop cracks. Security cameras eventually need replacing. Individually, none of these costs seem overwhelming. Together, they can quietly consume a large portion of the revenue. This is why looking only at gross income can be misleading. A football facility might generate impressive monthly sales, but if operating expenses rise just as quickly, the actual profit can be far smaller than it appears. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about businesses built around physical assets. A busy facility doesn't automatically mean a profitable one. In fact, more customers can sometimes increase costs faster than revenue if pricing isn't managed carefully. So owners constantly face difficult decisions. Should prices increase to cover rising expenses? Or would higher prices drive customers to competing fields nearby? The answer often depends on something owners can't fully control: competition. If your football field is the only quality facility in town, demand may remain strong even after a modest price increase. But if several modern fields open nearby, the market changes almost overnight. Players suddenly have choices. And when customers have choices, service becomes just as important as the field itself. A cleaner facility, easier online booking, friendlier staff, or more reliable scheduling can become the deciding factor. The competition is no longer just about football. It's about convenience, experience, and trust. That's why some of the most successful owners think less like groundskeepers and more like hospitality businesses. Because keeping customers coming back is usually far cheaper than constantly finding new ones. But even loyal customers can't protect a business from one powerful force that affects almost every football facility: seasonality. Demand doesn't stay the same all year, and when bookings begin to fall, a chain reaction can start that is far more dangerous than most new owners expect. At first, seasonality doesn't seem like a serious problem. Football is one of the world's most popular sports. Millions of people play it every week, so it seems reasonable to assume a football field will always have customers. Reality is more complicated. Demand rises and falls throughout the year, and the reasons aren't always obvious. In regions with heavy rain or extreme heat, outdoor bookings can drop sharply during certain months. Even if players want to play, bad weather can force cancellations. A weekend tournament planned for weeks can disappear because of a single storm. The field still has bills to pay. The bank loan doesn't stop. Insurance premiums don't pause. Employees still expect their salaries. Electricity, maintenance, and taxes continue, whether the field is full or empty. This is where cash flow becomes more important than profit. Many people use those terms as if they mean the same thing. They don't. A business can be profitable on paper over an entire year, but still run out of cash if too much money leaves the business before enough comes in. Imagine a football center that earns strong profits during the spring and summer. Encouraged by the success, the owner invests in new lighting, upgraded locker rooms, and better seating. Then several months of poor weather arrive, bookings slow down, and income falls. The improvements may have been smart long-term investments, but in the short term, cash becomes tight. Without enough reserves, even a well-managed business can struggle to pay its everyday expenses. That's why experienced owners often prepare for slow periods long before they arrive. They build emergency cash reserves. They spread revenue across multiple services. They avoid assuming that today's busy schedule will last forever, because one week season rarely stays isolated. It creates a chain reaction. Lower bookings reduce revenue. Lower revenue makes maintenance harder to afford. Delayed maintenance slowly reduces the quality of the facility. Players begin noticing worn turf, broken nets, poor lighting, or dirty changing rooms. Some choose another field instead. Bookings fall even further. Now, there's even less money available for repairs. The cycle feeds itself. What started as a temporary decline becomes a long-term problem. This is one of the most dangerous economic traps in the business. The decline often happens gradually. There isn't one dramatic moment where everything goes wrong. Instead, dozens of small problems quietly build on each other until customers lose confidence. On the other hand, the opposite chain reaction can also happen. A well-maintained field attracts more players. More players create stronger cash flow. That extra income allows for better maintenance and improved facilities. Satisfied customers recommend the venue to friends, teammates, schools, and local clubs. Demand grows. Higher demand makes it easier to raise prices modestly without losing customers. The business becomes stronger because each success reinforces the next. Small improvements compound over time, so do small mistakes. This brings us to another misconception. Many people believe the biggest risk is building the football field. In reality, construction is only the beginning. The much harder challenge is operating the business successfully year after year. And perhaps no example demonstrates this better than the rise of commercial five-a-side football centers. Their success wasn't built on having the biggest fields. It was built on understanding something much more valuable. They weren't maximizing land, they were maximizing time. And that simple shift transformed the economics of football facilities around the world. To understand why some football field businesses thrive while others struggle, it helps to look at one of the biggest changes the industry has seen over the past few decades: the rise of commercial five-a-side football centers. Traditional football requires a full-size pitch and 22 players. Organizing that many people every week isn't always easy. If a few players cancel, the match may not happen at all. Five-a-side changed that equation. The pitches are much smaller, each team needs only 5 players, and games are faster. Suddenly, groups of friends, co-workers, and students could organize a match with far less planning. That simple change had enormous economic consequences. A piece of land that could fit one full-sized field could often accommodate several smaller pitches instead. Instead of earning revenue from one match at a time, the facility could host multiple games simultaneously. The amount of land hadn't changed. The earning potential had. This illustrates one of the most important ideas in business. The highest value asset isn't always the physical property, it's how efficiently that property is used. Many successful operators also invested heavily in online booking systems. Rather than answering phone calls all day, customers could see available time slots, reserve a pitch, and pay in advance. That reduced scheduling errors, lowered administrative work, and made cancellations easier to manage. More importantly, it made booking frictionless. If someone finishes work at 5:00 p.m. and decides to play football that evening, they don't want to wait for business hours or hope someone answers the phone. They want to book immediately. Convenience became a competitive advantage. Some facilities went even further by offering memberships that included discounted bookings, priority reservations, or league participation. Instead of relying entirely on one-time customers, they encouraged regular players to return week after week. Predictable customers create predictable income. Predictable income makes it easier to plan staffing, maintenance, and future investments. But even the best-run facilities can't escape competition forever. If one football center proves highly profitable, other investors eventually notice. New fields open nearby. Prices become more competitive. Customers compare facilities online. Now the business must compete on far more than location alone. This is where reputation becomes one of the owner's most valuable assets. A single negative experience, a double-booked pitch, poor lighting during a night game, or consistently unclean facilities can spread quickly through reviews and social media. The opposite is also true. Teams that enjoy a great experience often return every week, bringing new players with them. Over time, word of mouth becomes one of the cheapest and most effective forms of marketing. Ironically, the business that appears to be about football increasingly becomes a business about customer experience. The pitch brings people in, the experience brings them back. And that difference determines whether a football field becomes a long-lasting business or a short-lived investment. By now, the original assumption has completely changed. Owning a football field isn't simply about owning land or loving the sport. It's about understanding economics. Every booking is part of a much larger system involving pricing, maintenance, customer satisfaction, competition, and time management. Because in the end, the most successful owners don't just rent out grass or artificial turf. They manage one of the few products that can never be stored, replaced, or recovered: time. Every unused hour is lost forever. Every well-used hour moves the business one step closer to long-term success. That's the hidden reality behind the economics of owning a football field. It isn't a business built on goals, trophies, or even football itself. It's a business built on turning limited time into lasting value.